Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is August 11th. Wow, I can't believe we made it this far into the summer without melting away. It's 100 degrees out today, practically. What's really interesting about this summer is that it's not only 95 to 100 degrees every single day for like an hour or two. It's 95 to 100 degrees every day for like hours. I was outside today at about 10:30, and it felt like 125. It was so hot. Um, Not a good day to get a flat tire, which kind of happened. Um, okay, let's talk about the election because it's getting closer day to day. And every day gets closer. It is more plain every day that whether you vote for Trump or you vote for Biden, if you vote for the Republican Party or you vote for the Democratic Party, it's irrelevant. It's the same thing. Um, they're the same thing. They are all warmongering. None of the wars have ended. In all the wars, and we have all the guys that are in all the countries that we've sent military to over the last 20 years, the wars have not ended. We are in 5 or 6 different wars from one side of Asia to the other. We're in covert actions all over Africa and South America and Central America. And the war machine is stronger than ever. I just took a look at the actual military budget that, by the way, over 100 Democrats voted for. So they're not the party of peace. My party is not, or what was once my party. They are therefore sending nearly $1 trillion to budget items such as military spending in outer space. Can you believe that? It's not science fiction. They're actually, this government, the government that we have in the United States, is more interested in spending items for outer space. I can't, it's unbelievable I'm actually saying this. Than they are building bridges, building schools, building hospitals, building roads, building infrastructure for the 21st and 22nd century, doing things for the families of this country. Doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican, has nothing to do with party. This government is willing, the government of Democrats and Republicans is willing to just throw trillions of dollars into the pile of pig manure and send it into outer space. It's incredible. Military items that, by the way, the American public will never know about because everything is classified. And so it's all going into somebody's pocket. It's all going towards a certain group of corporations and individuals. And it is the biggest sham of all time. Your tax dollars and mine being completely and utterly wasted away. That's 1/4 of the entire budget of the United States. Budget of the United States is $4.5 trillion. A trillion of it is military and military related. I took a look at that bill, which is over 1,000 pages long, and some of it is beyond belief. I'm going to be reading every single page. It's going to take a little while to get through. I'm sure not one congressman has read more than 15 pages. I guarantee it. I'd put $100 on it that not one congressman, not one, has read more than 15 pages, 10 pages. No way. They said yes, they said no. That's it. They don't read it. If I was a congressman or a senator, I would have voted no. Absolutely. Because the amount of the bill is so absurdly ridiculous and not sustainable in any way, shape, or form that it's criminal. As always, it's been criminal. The military budget of this country has been criminal for the past 45 years or more. Part of that money is for spending hundreds of billions of dollars to upgrade nuclear weapons. That's the last thing this planet needs. That's the last thing this country needs. The best thing that we could do is take every single nuclear weapon, whether it's flying around in the B-59, B-52s, or B-29s, or whatever they got, and in the submarines, and sitting in the middle of North Dakota somewhere, take every single one and melt them down and build shelters for probably about 10 million people. That would be the best thing that they could do with all of the hardware, all of the rockets. Just melt them down and take all the nuclear stuff. I don't know if you want to stick it deep into a mountain somewhere that's 3 miles deep. I don't care what you do with it. You melt it down and get rid of it. That would be the best thing for this planet and for humanity. It does not unilaterally take away our capabilities as a nation to destroy anybody. If you've noticed, there have been no nuclear weapons used since 1945. And of course, we're the only ones who dropped nuclear weapons on anybody. They haven't been used. It's not a usable weapon. It's a complete waste of infrastructure. The whole thing is a waste. It's built on waste. It's built on propaganda. Russia, China, the United States. Built on propaganda so that one plays off the other two. It's ridiculous. And then you have this incredibly huge infrastructure by all three countries, wasting trillions of dollars. Well, it's all a big tragic joke. The use of one nuclear weapon, look what it did to Japan. And that nuclear weapon in Hiroshima, killing nearly 100,000 people. You know what one nuclear weapon would do now? It would destroy half of Japan. You'd kill 20 million people with 1 or 2 nuclear weapons. What's the sense? What's the sense of having these things? Because the fallout would go worldwide and kill people all over the world. What's the sense of having it? Just to end life on planet Earth? Because conflicts between humans is never going to end. So why have a weapon? Why would you have a weapon which would actually destroy your planet? Because humans are never going to stop fighting. That is humanity's signature, is violence. So it's not going to end. It's just going to go on. And so that waste is, whether you're Democrat or Republican, Democrats, they couldn't care less. They couldn't care less. They're getting it paid off as much as the Republicans are. Every single congressman, every single, practically, are getting white envelopes with huge amounts of cash. Let me tell you something. If you think I'm kidding around, I'm not. They're getting white envelopes with huge amounts of cash daily and weekly from the military industrial complex, from the insurance industries, from oil industries. They have so much money. They couldn't care less about fighting for your 600 bucks. Have you noticed that them, like I said, I don't know about anybody else that's on the internet. I know I'm not listened to by a lot of people yet, but uh, I indicated the Democrats are going to fall apart, and here they are. They completely fell in. They gave up $1 trillion in the negotiations. The Republicans gave up nothing, and they don't have to do anything. The Republicans control the presidency and the Senate. The House, and Pelosi and Schumer, a bunch of dopes. It's incredible. It's incredible that they do not come to the American people hardball all the way, going $3 trillion, and we're sticking by it. And to tell you the truth, in the end, they're not going to get anything anyway, unless they play that into the election and use it to sweep the Republicans out. But are they doing now? They blinked. They gave up. They blinked during negotiations. And a negotiation, it's over. Trump comes out of a smoky room with this illegal crap that is not going to be challenged by the Democrats, by the way. Pelosi and Schumer, they are not going to do a thing. Even if they did, it would take months. We're only 8-10 weeks away from the election. And how many weeks? 10, 12 weeks to the election. There isn't enough time to go through the courts on this anyway. So the Republicans are going to get what they want. They're going to limit families to 300. Listen to this. It just went from 600 to 300. $300 a week for unemployment. And you got to jump through hoops to get it. And if you happen to live in a state that can afford an extra 100, you'll get 400. But guess what? There are no states that can afford that. So the most you're going to get is 300. So you just got cut in half. So that's where the Republicans are. The Democrats, that's the game. The Democrats make believe they're fighting for people, and they're fighting for nobody. I've negotiated contracts and loans for the past 40 years for a couple of the biggest banks in this country and a couple of some of the smaller banks, and that I've worked for. I've worked for small banks. I've worked for a couple of the largest banks in this country, and I've been doing it for a very long time. I have negotiated tens of thousands of contracts and loans, business loans, and every other kind of loan you can imagine, big and small. And I've also worked for the government, working for the Small Business Administration in the Caribbean. So I've got some experience in negotiating. These guys are the worst because they're not negotiating. It's a show. And not only do I have that experience, I have 12 years experience being elected to a local city/town government. And it was in the Ways and Means Committee of that government. And we reviewed the budgets of every single department of our 70,000 person town/city. Turned into a city recently. And look, even on a local level, there are serious negotiations that need to take place. If you live in a town or a city of 70,000, let's say, whoever's listening, somebody has to work out the budgets, review the budgets of every director of every department, parks, police, fire, health, everything, everything, administration, veterans, everything. Every dime is reviewed and negotiated. And there are projects that are reviewed and negotiated during that process. Even on a local level, it takes time and energy and mature thought and discussion and negotiation with all the people that are involved. And you also get involved with the school systems to a certain extent, because you're also eventually voting on those budgets. It is not an easy thing, and it takes time and energy and years to mature as a good legislator. And it took me that time. Even though I went to school as a political scientist, and I went to school and got a degree, and grew up in a very political home. Most people did not have a degree that I sat in the room with. Most of the people did not grow up in a room of politics and politicians all over the place like I did. And it's still a difficult thing. And because there's different layers of experience of people that you're talking to, even on a local level, can you imagine sitting in Congress? Let's say I'm sitting in Congress. Look, I've got 40 years of financial background. I've got my entire life is involved in politics and being around politics and theory and all the other stuff, and being involved in politics on a local, regional, and I worked for a couple of congressmen. So what about all of those congressmen that don't have that experience? There are plenty of them that don't. They're told what to do. A lot of them come in with that experience and they are told what to do. They are given white envelopes or blue envelopes or red envelopes. It doesn't matter. They're given money. And in today's world, they're probably wired everything to overseas accounts. It's all paid for. And if you think that's not true, think again, because it is true. Most politicians, Democrat, my party, Democrat, and Republican, are paid from beginning to end. So that's why we're getting a COVID virus response where 40 and 50 million or 50 million people are unemployed, and Congress's response is nothing. Nothing. They, think about it. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Martian or a Vulcan or anything. Doesn't matter. The response from Congress is nothing. And you think you want to support that? You want to support that? If you're a Republican, you want to support that? If you're a Democrat, you want to support that? Why? You wouldn't support that if somebody's doing that to your house or your home or your family, to promise you this and promise you that. One group promises you that, one group promises you this, and it ends up that nobody's getting anything because they're both lying to you. Why on earth would you put your family through that? People, the families of America, the people of America, citizens of America, both sides. And unfortunately, there's nowhere to go. That's the problem. There's nowhere to go. On one side, I guess if you're a Republican, I don't know. I'm not quite sure of the thinking on it, policy-wise. But I guess in their world, I guess their knight on shining a horse on a knight on riding in on a white horse, shining armor, is Ronald Reagan. And for the Democrats, I don't know. I guess for some Democrats, it's for like me. I guess it would be Bobby Kennedy, or John Kennedy, or Obama again, or some other baloney. You know, well, we didn't get anywhere anyway with any of these guys. You know, nothing in the last 40 years has really been very positive. Social Security has been bleeding all these years, but the solutions are so unbelievably simple. It's just tragically simple, to simply increase the Social Security taxes up to $1 trillion, in income, or maybe just unlimited, so that 1% goes to Medicare or Medicaid, and the other 3% goes to Social Security. Instead of it being limited to 120,000, why would you limit it to that? Why not tax every dollar in this country with Social Security and Medicare? That makes no sense. So that's the easiest solution. You know what? The people who would be taxed that wouldn't know about it, wouldn't feel it. They wouldn't, because they're making over $120,000 already. They wouldn't feel a dime, and that would be the solution. We have a situation now, as of today, where the Dow Jones Industrial Average, from the last that I saw, has reached 28,000. That means that this insane, runaway, make-believe train is still being funded artificially by the federal government. Your tax dollars and mine, or maybe another way to look at it is the money-making machine at the Federal Reserve is cranking out dollars, where sooner or later, possibly, the inflation from those dollars is going to explode, is going to create a bubble so large, because what's going on with the Dow is so unreal, so disconnected from reality. Millions upon millions of people unemployed. The economy has gone down 30%, 35% during the last quarter. It is beyond a depression. It is beyond that. We're past that. And with the cuts in this Trumpish make-believe bill thing, garbage that he created, and with no response from Congress, and with no eviction protection going forward, you are going to have probably millions of people thrown out into the street. I guess. I don't know what the alternative is, because the owners of these buildings, the landlords, whether they're big corporations or small investors, are not going to be sitting around allowing people just squat forever and get nothing in return for it. So we're heading for chaos, is what we're heading for. Socially, economically, and politically, we are heading for something. I'm saying again, we have a presidential candidate in the Democratic Party that I have no idea what his health situation is. I simply don't believe that he is capable of being president of the United States. There's no way he is capable. His speech, and I think the connection, unfortunately, between what's going on in here and his hands just are just not connected anymore. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm not sorry to say it. Again, I didn't force him to run. Nobody's forcing him to run. I don't know why he ran. Maybe it's to, because I guess he promised his son before he passed away. Well, listen, man. Listen, look, I lost my mother when I was young. I promised her lots of things. Some things you're able to work out in life. Some things you can't. And this is insane, because it's going to affect all of us. I don't care who he picks as vice president. by the way. I don't really care, because whoever it is it just doesn't matter. Kamala Harris, I mean, again, she's better on the Supreme Court. I have lots of respect for her as using her legal expertise. I'm not crazy about her being vice president or president. Whoever becomes vice president will possibly become president. I don't believe the powers that be, no matter who Biden picks as VP, will become president if Biden wins, if the Democrats win. But so Kamala Harris, the mayor of Atlanta Bottoms, I kind of like. I mean, I like a couple of people that are possibilities, but it's just irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I mean, to tell you the truth, none of them have the foreign policy experience that I would like to see in a vice president. Bill Richardson, New Mexico, even though he's paid off, he's got lots of experience in foreign policy. That's the kind of foreign policy I'd like to see. Unfortunately, it's sitting in the body of and mind of Bill Richardson, who I just simply think he's in the same group as Biden. They're paid off warmongers. That's what I believe. That's the track record. So I'm not quite sure who I would put as vice president right now. It doesn't even matter anymore. By the way, one of the guys who I live in Massachusetts, one of the congressmen up here, Seth Moulton, who was in the military. He's a Democratic congressman. He voted recently for the military bill. Do you believe that? This guy is aware of just all the garbage and corruption that goes on, and he votes for the military budget. And so does Congressman Lynch, also from Massachusetts. I grew up in New Jersey, and Democratic congressmen voted for the military budget also. If I was a congressman or a senator, I would be on TV every day, on the internet every day, telling the citizens that I represent that I am against this military budget and why. And that has been a peeve of mine since the Vietnam War. We have wasted so much money. There are so many things that Republican families need and Democratic families need and American families need. Our country needs the money that is being wasted in the military budget. It is beyond insane what we have done, but we have taken all that money that we as taxpayers had, trillions of dollars over the years, 30, 40 trillion dollars, and simply flushed it down the toilet. Because that money is really not used. It's not utilized. It's stuck in a finished product of bullets and bombs, which are used to kill people that we have not legally done since World War II. It's all a sham. So I guess that's almost it. I guess one last thing. Again, we live in the 21st century now. And the things that are important now in this country is a change that really needs to happen. It almost happened in the 1960s. But as we look back, we've been fooled. The baby boomers have been completely fooled, have been completely screwed. And we actually didn't change a thing. We didn't change one thing. We almost did. We tried to do it. some of us. But really, not only did anything change, there have been war upon war upon war since then. So that hasn't changed. Our uh, our communication systems, our networks, our newspapers, our reporting, they are now, over the past 40 years, whether the American people know it or not, there have been laws that have been created since Vietnam, and especially since 2001, where everything goes through the Pentagon. This is illegal, by the way, through our Constitution, but we really don't have a Constitution anymore in this country. So we don't have a free press in this country anymore. The First Amendment has been burnt away. So we have a situation now where we used to have reporters on the ground in Vietnam or wherever else American troops were, even in World War II. That's why there's so many great films during World War II. There were reporters everywhere, Okinawa, D-Day, everywhere, and Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, wherever there was fighting, reporters were getting killed and injured too. And the reports went right back to the people of the United States, with some exception. But those were exceptions. And during Vietnam, there was a gigantic battle going on where the military still did not win that battle of communicating what was going on in the wars that were being fought to the American people. We had reporters every day, every night. You know, you'd be eating your roast beef at night, and you would see 300 more American kids die and 400 more wounded every single night. And you would see the truth. And that was the truth. And now there have been these laws that have been created. Ask Biden about it, by the way, because he helped create them. These illegal laws that put the military as the filter so that there are no reporters anywhere close to any action anywhere. Now, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, supposedly we're free people with a First Amendment, with a press that's supposed to be able to be free. That includes being free of the military. Again, only under kings and queens is that supposed to happen, not in a free democracy or republic. And it doesn't exist anymore. Everything goes through the Pentagon and the CIA and every other agency before the American people can see anything or hear anything. And that is illegal. So, so it justifies the propaganda that people hear on the 3 or 4 on the 3 or 4 cable networks that they watch, all the imbecilic talking back and forth, which, you watch that for about 5 seconds. I don't know if worms could watch it. I don't know how they can. It would drive them nuts. It drives me crazy. 3 seconds of listening to Fox or CNN or MSNBC. All 3 of these networks are just garbage. All of these talking jerk-offs. I would love to know what their backgrounds are. Journalism? I think half of them don't even have journalism. I don't know if any of them know how to write a story. I mean, back in the 50s and 60s, they actually used to write their own stories. I mean, these guys were brilliant. Men and women back in the 40s, 50s, 60s used to write their own stories. the reporters now, they're not reporters. They're talking heads that have been picked out of a park somewhere, and they put paint on them, and then people go out and die because of what these morons say and what they just talk off of a prompter. Just garbage, repeated garbage over and over again. Like, it really matters. I mean, it's a big story whether, who's the VP. You know what? Who gives a crap? You know what's more important is what is the policies that the VP is going to be bringing to the table. What are the policies that the president is going to be bringing to the table? There isn't more than 5 people in this whole country who knows what the heck Biden is even for. We know what he's against. He's against single-payer health care. He's against anything progressive. He said so. So, and if you think that this warmongering jerk is going to cut the military budget, forget about it. So he's not doing anything different. And of course, we all know what Trump is for. Not that I'm not for Trump. I'm not for either party at this point. I am a lifelong Democrat, progressive Democrat, who is still able to think. And I simply am not going to fall into the propaganda machine that TV is turned into. I mean, propaganda machine, there was a propaganda machine forever. There's been a propaganda machine one way or the other forever. And I'm not going to fall into the one that exists now. So we have the election coming. It's really important, I guess. In all my life, I have never felt so. I just shrug my shoulders because I have come to the conclusion, sadly, that it completely and utterly does not matter. That most Democrats are paid off, which is a shame. You cannot change the Democratic Party from within. And that's the fact. You just can't. I mean, most of the progressives that have been elected recently over the last few cycles have fallen into the same line to a certain extent. And they want the easy payoffs too. I mean, they're human. And I understand that. Again, if you watch some of my shows, somebody put an arm around my shoulder when I was 25 years old and I ran for office for the first time, and somebody put an arm around my shoulder and promised the world to me, promised me jobs and promised me money and promised me votes, all of it. Well, I turned around and I said no, because I know who I am. And I laughed at them and told them to go take a hike. And they did. And they disappeared. So that's where we are today, unfortunately. Well, I want to finish my thought with the Dow Industrial Average being over 28,000 and the NASDAQ being over 10,000. These two numbers are going to retreat faster than they went up. The Dow Jones, I am convinced more than ever, is that it is going to go down to about 10,000, 8 to 10,000. Not by 8 or 10,000. I mean down to 8 to 10,000. There is nothing economically keeping it at the level at where it is. And this is not like something magical in a cloud. When you're at 28,000, that represents a certain amount of wealth, of investment, of energy, of economic risk. And that number does not represent the reality of what is happening in the homes of people of this country on Main Street. It is not representative in any way. I don't care. I did go to Harvard. I went to Harvard as a grad, not undergrad, but as a grad. I couldn't care less what Harvard professor can come up with some idiotic uh, Bushite uh, strategy, policy, justification in an economic sense. It doesn't exist. Not where we are today. Not with 40 million people unemployed and about to lose their housing and their food and their health care and their car, and have the Dow Jones at 28,000 points. It's impossible. And that's why I know that Dow has been pumped up artificially. And I don't care if nobody else is talking about it, or maybe one other person's talking about it. I don't care. I know. I've been involved my whole life in the financial world and in the political world, and in reality, sorry to say, in my opinion, that 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 the economic situation is unfortunately a clown show for the super rich, and that's where we are today, unfortunately. And that's about it. So I'll talk to you next time, and hopefully we have something fun to talk about. Take care.